Okay, good morning, ladies. For those of you that are joining us live, go ahead and start standing on your mat. If you are catching this on the YouTube, this is a Christmas themed yoga today, but you can do this any time of year because some of the things that I'll be talking about in this practice will be applicable at all times per year during the year. So I'm Sarah Barker, and this will be yoga. We'll start by standing on our mat in mountain pose. So just a comfortable standing position, typically just how you would stand at the doctor's office. Feet are spread out, hands are open, palms are towards the front of your body. And I like to have my eyes closed on mountain pose just so I can start really coming inside of my body and focusing on my breath. Are you going to join us, Ivy? Would you like to join us? Off the mat. Off the mat. Off the mat. All right, so starting with our deep box breathing, or Ujjayi breath. We're going to be taking a deep inhale through the nose, opening up the chest, opening up the lungs, holding that breath at the top just for a couple of seconds, and then exhaling through the nose as well. Keeping that breath internal. And what that means is by instead of breathing through the mouth or even just the superficial part of the nose, letting all the breath come from the back of the nasal cavity. So really keeping that breath in more. Rolling those shoulders back, pressing the feet into the floor. Kind of eliminating all the space between your toes and the mat that you're standing on so that you can really feel like you are sinking your body into the mat. So we're allowing our body to feel heavy right now, which is contradictory to what we're talked about or we're told to do. Typically, we want to feel lighter, right? But right now we want to just feel the weight of our body. Embrace that weight. Feeling present on our mat. Thinking about whatever your intention statement is for today, whatever your intention for your practice is today. It could be something as simple as I am present, or I am here, I'm breathing, I'm alive, I'm healthy. Or it could be a word of resolve. Sometimes when I'm really overwhelmed mentally or emotionally, and all I can do is literally come up with a word for my practice. Typically it is something like breathe, maybe just power, peace, something that I can just kind of zone in on internally throughout the practice. So whenever a pose gets difficult or whenever I find my mind wandering, which happens a lot, I can use that word or that intention to draw myself back into the mat and try to be present on the mat at all times. Kind of like in life, especially through the holidays, that desire for me to be present is really a challenge. So it's something I have to remind myself of. So let's take a few more deep breaths, inhaling through the nose, filling up the back of the nasal cavity, kind of feeling that breath in your head, and then letting that breath come out through the nose, keeping it all through the nose if you can. If you're congested or anything like that, obviously you could use your mouth. And on the next couple of breaths, I want you to focus on expanding the belly, trying to make that breath come big in the belly for the inhale. And then let the belly come back in the exhale. All right, so rolling the shoulders back. If you want to open your eyes now, you can. You can keep them shut and just listen to my voice if you'd like. Our feet are going to be pressed wide into the floor. So you've got your toes spread wide, not necessarily your stance. And our pelvic area is just completely neutral. So we don't want to tuck our hips underneath. We don't want to pull the chest forward and arch our lower back. We definitely want to have a neutral spine here. We're going to take a deep breath in and bring the right arm all the way up towards the ceiling. And I want to sink into the right foot. So we're expanding through the ribs. We're opening up the rib cage here, creating dynamic resistance through the side body. And then the same thing with the left side. So taking a deep breath in as you sink with the left side, lifting with the left hand. And doing one more on each side. So taking a deep breath in. Opening up the side body, almost like you're creating space between each rib, like you're opening them up. And the other side, restoring balance to the body. And then release. Taking one more deep breath this time. Both hands are going to come all the way up. Fingertips are going to touch here and the thumb, opening the space between our hands. I know y'all can't see my hands, but here. And arching that lower back, like a tiny little back bend. And then sweeping the hands down, we're going to swan dive towards the floor into a forward fold. So from the side view, the forward fold, knees are slightly bent here, and they're dropping the armpits towards the knees. The face is towards the knees. I'm actually looking through my legs and behind me, and the chin is tucked into the chest. So you want the crown of your head pointed towards the floor. Let's go ahead and shake our head, yes and no, just to try to release some of that upper cervical spine. I personally carry more of my back tension in my neck and upper back than I do in my lower back, which a lot of women experience shoulder pain as well and neck pain, but I seem to carry a lot of my tension there. So this is a great pose for me to just let that weight go. Let the weight of your body be what pulls you towards the floor. If you're finding yourself supporting your body with your hands, see if you can just kind of relax the hands or bring them on your elbows, so that your upper body still has that weight. Hamstrings should be waking up here, so feeling the tension all along the backs of the legs. If your hands don't touch the floor, if you're still stuck here and it's starting to kind of hurt, it starts to kind of strain your lower back or your legs, use your hands to kind of hold yourself up here. Still get that hamstring stretch without any of that tension. Taking a deep breath in, we're going to lift the chest into a little half lift. Fingers are still pointing towards the floor. And then we're going to sink back down into forward fold. All right, taking another deep breath. Hands are going to come up all the way, reverse swan dive. Hands come to the ceiling. We're going to bring our hands down to prayer pose. And then we're going to touch the feet together. We're going to come all the way down, rotating that body into a side twist here. Taking a deep breath in. And then bringing it all the way back up. Hands are going to come all the way back up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to do the same thing. Bring those hands back down. Somebody got kicked off. Oh, sorry, Tiff. I don't know what's going on. It's probably my technology. It's usually the case. So we're going to come all the way back down. We're going to twist back over into that side. Twist. Hands come to heart center. And anahata, we're going to pull through the chest, lifting. Nice twist of the body. And then bring those hands back up. Deep inhale. And once again, we're going to swan dive all the way towards the floor to forward fold. I'm going to turn to side once again. So we've got that nice forward fold going here, but this time let's go ahead and lift up all the way to monkey. So pushing the hands into the shins and straightening out the spine. Knees are still slightly bent here. Kind of play around with your feet a little bit. Kind of lean to one side, maybe lean forward just a little bit. Notice how your toes automatically grip and keep you steady. Sinking back into the heels, leaning into the other foot. All right, guys, dropping it back down into forward fold one more time. Spreading the feet about hip width apart. We're going to press one hand into the floor, and then we're going to open up the opposite hand. So really pushing into that side body, bending the opposite knee so that you get a little bit more of a twist. So the same hand that's on the floor, that knee is bending. And then bringing it back down, bending that opposite side, opening up the side body, big twist. Try to keep that shoulder that's on top, keep that shoulder pulled back. And rotate back around. All right, so now from forward fold, Matt is not used to being on carpet. Now from forward fold, we're going to press our hands big into the floor, nice big open palms, and we're going to press back into downward facing dog. Lifting the hips towards the ceiling, curling your tailbone upward so that the tip of your tailbone is the highest point of your body. And then from here, we're going to drop the ears down towards the biceps, pressing the heels into the floor. Your face can come underneath your arms if your back will allow you to do so. We're pressing away from the body with the hands, pressing the feet away from the body, like you're trying to spread your Christmas tablecloth on the table with both hands and feet at the same time. Taking a deep breath in, opening up that breath in the back body. So try to inhale as if you're opening up your back side of your lungs. All right, you guys, we're going to go ahead and get down on those knees, drop into the knees, and hands are going to come underneath our shoulders. We're going to drop our belly button towards the floor. Face you guys, I'm trying to find a good angle here. It's not really happening. So we're going to drop our belly button towards the floor, and the tailbone is going to curl up towards the ceiling. Open up, deep breath in here for cow. And then we're exhaling, dropping the chin towards the chest, rounding out that spine. Same thing again, opening up the chest, opening up the throat. Inhale real big here. And exhale, rounding it right back up. All right, back into that neutral spine on our hands and our knees. We're going to take our hip and we're going to kind of curl it around as if we're looking at our shoulder or looking over our shoulder at our hip. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So twisting around. And then do that a couple more times to restore balance to the body. Really, really curving that lumbar spine like a pendulum on a clock. You're kind of just curling it around as much as you can to get that left-right motion. And then we're going to come back into that neutral spine one last time and go into our barrel rolls. This is always a fun one to do when I'm in a live class because everybody starts giggling. But it's a really great way to make sure you're getting the full range of motion in your spine. So letting your hips roll around one direction, letting the upper body roll around the opposite direction, doing that about 4 or 5 times in one direction and then switching on the other side. Really making it dramatic, like pushing into those shoulders and those elbows, and then bringing it back to that neutral spine. We'll go back into the cat-cow one more time. So curl that tailbone under or upward, big breath in. Exhale back into the cat. All right, go ahead and step back into our child's pose here for just a moment. Kind of reset, regroup, dropping your forehead to the floor, or you can stack your fists for wrists here if you want, or your fists underneath your head for some support if you want. Whatever feels good to you, grab a sip of whatever you're drinking if you need to hydrate here. Just take a moment to check in. All right, guys, from here, we're going to come back into those all fours, placing your hands directly underneath your shoulders. If you're like me and you have a tendency to lock those arms out, extend your elbows, try to kind of turn your elbows out towards the side of your body so that you automatically kind of engage, and then push the shoulders away from the head so that you got a long neck here. So we're going to thread the needle, get a nice shoulder stretch here. It's one of my favorites. We're going to take our left hand and we're going to bring it all the way underneath the opposite arm and lay that head and that shoulder on the floor. This hand can either come out for support, it can stay where it is, it can come open here, or you can go into a half bind, finding that outside leg or the leg on the opposite side and twisting open. So we're pressing the shoulder around, we're pulling the shoulder around towards the ceiling. Go. Go. All right, opening up that hand nice and big. Yeah, nice. And rotating it around. Oh, never a dull moment at the Barker house, people. Dogs literally doing downward dog with me, sniffing thing. All right, we're gonna come to the opposite side. So really rotate and drop down into that temple. Hello. Hello. And open that opposite hand up. Hi, honey. Hello, baby. Hello, darling. You're interrupting. Taking it around to a half bite if you want to. She's like, why are you on the floor? Go, Ivy. All right, guys, rotate it back around. Oh, all right, okay. All right, now we're gonna get a little warm now. So hands are gonna plant to the top 2 corners of your mat. Go ahead and dig your toes in. Lift straight up to that downward facing dog. Hello. Hello. What are you doing? All right, you guys, we're gonna come forward to a nice plank position. On your toes or on your knees. You can drop down to the knees if you like. We're gonna take it down into a nice crocodile chaturanga. Inhale, push up to upward facing dog. Toes are flat on the floor. Preferably your hips are off the floor. And then toes curl back under. We're gonna come back into that downward facing dog. Seriously? Taking that right leg, bringing it all the way up into a 3-legged dog. We're gonna sweep that foot to the hands, dropping your back knee to the floor, and lifting up to a crescent lunge. All right, sweeping those hands back down around. Hands come open big. Push back into that downward facing dog. Let's do that flow again. Coming forward to our plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale to upward facing dog. Remembering you can be on your knees the whole time with these. Toes curl under, push back to downward dog. Opposite leg, get off my watch. Opposite leg comes up, 3-legged dog. We're gonna sweep that left foot all the way to the hands, dropping our back knee, lifting up to crescent lunge, kneeling crescent lunge. Really pushing through that hip flexor, taking a deep breath in. Hands are gonna sweep down, press back into our downward facing dog. All right, guys, deep breath in, coming forward to our plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Get those bodies warm. Press back to downward facing dog. All right, this time we're going to take our right foot up once again. Right foot's going to come all the way up towards the ceiling. All right, we're going to bring the knee into the chest this time. Bring it into the chest, into a plank, a 1-legged plank. Bring it back to the ceiling, and then we're going to sweep that leg to the front, just like before. But this time, we're not going to drop the knee if you can. We're going to keep the knee lifted. Bring the hands up to crescent lunge once again. If you want to add a little twist here, it's a great time to do so. You can also keep this position down on the kneeling if that's better for you. All right, sweep the hands back up before we come down. Push back to downward facing dog. Come forward to plank. Inhale to plank. Exhale, chaturanga. So it's a half push up. You're coming about 90 degrees down. Pushing up to our upward facing dog. And then back to the down dog. If at any point in this flow you want to drop to the child's pose and regroup, go for it. Left leg comes all the way up, 3-legged dog. Bringing that knee into the chest. Knee back up, foot comes to the ceiling, sweeps the foot towards the hands. Balancing that knee up, crescent lunge here. You want to add that little twist, go for it. All right, bring those hands back up. Sweep it back down. Press back into our downward facing dog. Let's come forward once again. Inhale to plank. How to be getting warm by now? Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale to upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. Ooh, yes. I don't know about you guys, but I'm warm now. Nice and warm. All right, from here, let's go ahead and bring that leg up once again, that right leg preferably. And let's stack the hips over each other. You can maybe rotate that ankle, bend your knee a little bit, get some range of motion going. All right, take that leg, we're gonna bring it all the way forward. Plant that foot. Plant that foot down. You guys stay where you are. I'm gonna switch sides so that you can see me better a little bit. Plant that foot into the floor, and then anchor your back heel into the floor as well. So both feet are touching the floor in their entirety. And then we're gonna come up to warrior one. So warrior one, both hip bones are facing the same direction as your chest and your front knee. So let everything line up as if everything is facing the front of your mat. Hands can come up, or you can bring them at heart center if that's better for you. You can also just kind of relax your hands if that's more comfortable. So taking our warrior one, taking a deep breath in, sinking that front knee down so that you can really get a 90-degree angle in that bend. Deep breath in, we're gonna open it up to warrior two. This time both hips are facing the side of our mat, shoulders are pulled back and down, but we're still really sinking into that front leg. Remember your back heel, I know y'all can't see mine, but your back heel is on the floor. Looking over that front shoulder if your range of motion in your neck will allow it. Opening up that hand, we're gonna reach to the front, deepen into that stance, and then come back into our reverse warrior. So the point here is to stay sinking in the warrior pose, lifting up on the root lock. So we've got our mula bandha, that's the base of the pelvic floor, tightening, giving us a little bit more strength, a little bit more power in our base. And then opening up that top hand, leaning back, opening up the side ribs. All right, back into that warrior two. Front leg ought to be talking to you a little bit. Inside of your thighs, we're pulling inside of our thighs towards the middle of our body. So try to activate those as if you're on a piece of ice and you're trying to like slide your feet in a little bit. All right, you guys, straightening out that front leg, pushing the hip back. We're gonna come down into that side triangle here. So pressing the top of the back of the hand into our calf, maybe pressing it into our shin if you need some support. If you have a yoga block or pillows or some kind of bolster that you want to put your hand on to give yourself a little more length, do it. We're going to take the top shoulder and rotate it back. That's the tricky part right there. Take a breath here. On your next inhale, fill up the lungs. And as you exhale, we're going to sink a little bit further. Same thing with the next breath. Going inhale and exhale, sink a little lower. All right, you guys. Bending that same leg, coming down into angle pose. If this is a little too much for you, we're gonna put our forearm on our front leg and open it up here, or you can take it into full angle. Concentrate on taking this left hip and pressing it down to the floor. Ivy. No, stop. All right, you guys, we're gonna take that hand. Rotate it down and around, turn that back heel up, push back to downward facing dog. Ivy. What are you doing? You just need to be played with. You're such a punk. All right, you guys, we're going to take that left leg this time. Come all the way up, stacking those hips. Let that hip kind of stack a little bit. Rotate your ankle. Seriously, stop. Come on. Come on. Now come back. Go. Ivy, go. Come on. You guys just hang out of that pose for a second. Go ahead and start setting up for your warrior one. That's just like we did on the other side. Well, that didn't work. All right, guys, stay in that warrior one. Go ahead and shift into warrior two. Oh my Lord, help me. Somebody please come get the dog. Come on. All right, guys. Sorry, I don't even know where we are at this point. Go. Opening up that warrior two, lifting to the upper body, coming up to reverse warrior. Take her outside, please. Whatever you got to do. Thank you. Pressing into those legs. We're really opening up the side body here. Stone, when you're done, put her out back, please. She keeps jumping on me. We'll figure it out. All right. Next up, we're going to come back into that warrior two. Y'all, literally told my husband right before this, I was like, you know, it's been 10 months of doing Zooms at this point, and I've never done one without being interrupted. Not one. Not one. Not one. That's why I do all the yoga. Okay, you guys. All right, let's go ahead and take that leg, straighten it out, and bring it down. Did we already do reverse warrior underneath that? Where's her collar? How did she get out of her collar? Find a treat and get her outside where I punch somebody. All right, so all the yoga. Deep breaths, ladies. Find your resolve. Find your intention. Opening up that side body, lifting up the chest. Remember, on our inhale, we're going to sink a little lower. So let your body adapt to the breath. She's in a really playful mood today, guys. Super playful mood today. Ivy, sit. All right, so one more big breath. Let that body sink into that triangle pose. Should be feeling really good on the inside of those thighs. And then just to go a little bit further, we're going to bend that front knee. Either come up onto the front knee for support here, or take it, or stay down in that angle pose. So we can't get her collar back on, so that's a problem. All right, guys. All right, take that hand. We're going to rotate around, turning that back heel up, pressing into our downward facing dog, sinking into those feet, pressing into the heels. Ears are even with the arms, or maybe even below. And then go ahead and take it down into our knees and press back into your child's pose. Your legs ought to be thanking you for that. Stay. Sometimes, girls, you just gotta pick the whole thing up and just throw it out the door. Okay, so coming out of that child's pose, how are we feeling, everybody? Y'all laughing at me? Caroline, I bet you're really digging this. Tiffany, y'all, you too. Like, you guys know that I'm not, we're not dog people. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. All right, guys. It is what it is. We go with the flow. We roll with the punches. So coming back out of that child's pose into a downward facing dog. We're going to go ahead and take those feet, bring them all the way to your hands. Either step that way or jump that way, whatever you got to do. Reverse swan dive into a standing mountain pose once again. Extended mountain pose. Come back down. Roll those shoulders back. We're going to do a little balance. A little balance pose today. Just nothing like the holidays to help us learn that either we're really great at balancing things or we are trying to balance too much. We're going to go to tree pose first. Pressing that right foot into the floor, we're going to take our left foot and either keep it down on the floor like you're, you've got a tree, the root coming out of your tree, or we're going to pull it into the calf, maybe even the inner thigh. Just try not to put any pressure on the little shelf that's built in there on your knee. It only takes a very small amount, less than 10 pounds, to completely blow out your ACL, or your MCL. So we don't want to put any pressure on the inside of that knee. So finding that pose that's comfortable for you balance-wise, hands come into heart center, and then we're just going to kind of sink into the floor, letting our body sway a little bit, just like trees sway in the breeze. Breath is full here, making sure we're not shallow breathing. Also, it helps to have a focal point 5 or 6 feet in front of you to help with that balance. Now we're going to take a deep breath in. Hands are going to come all the way up. Opening up those hands, let them come as wide as you'd like. Good job, you guys. Without bringing the knee down, if possible, we're going to come around and we're going to grab that leg and we're going to bring it to the front here. And from here, if you want to just keep your left hand on the back of your left leg and open up your leg here, that is fine. Or you can reach through, grab that big toe with your 2 peace sign fingers and come through here. So we're opening up the door, okay, opening up that gate. And if you want to extend the arm and extend the leg, you can, pressing the heel away from your body, finding that balance. I do think it's easier to bend that bottom leg here if you're struggling on the balance. Remembering that our body is not symmetrical. So one side could be really tricky to balance. The other side might not be so tricky. And then we're going to bring it right back in. All right. So pressing that down. Since I can't see y'all today, I don't know how you're doing on these balance poses, but just know some days are more forgiving than others in the balance department. So we're going to press our left foot into the floor, finding a root on that other leg. Or you can bring it into your inner thigh or your inner calf, just making sure we don't put pressure on that leg. Some people really feel like their best balance is even with the knee. If that's you, just cross the leg. So totally fine. You still have that same level of balance, but it's not going to put pressure on that knee. So hands come into prayer pose, holding that focal point. For me, it's just the very tip of my coffee table. It's about 4 or 5 feet away. Remember that your base leg is bent. It's bent just a little bit. All right, taking a deep breath in, bringing those hands all the way up, extending your tree tall. All right, without dropping that leg if possible. If you need to put it down, that's fine. Reset. We're going to come forward with that knee. Just kind of finding that range of motion with that hip flexor. And then either taking that hand, same leg, and opening it here, or you can reach through, grab it with the big toe with your fingers and come through here. Whether or not you extend that leg is up to you. You can extend the arm, extend the leg. Still a soft bend in that bottom leg. Breathing here. Don't hold your breath on balance poses, on any poses. And then slowly bringing it back in, back to the front, and coming down. Oh, yeah, yeah. Hips should be feeling a little looser, I hope. All right, taking a deep breath in. We're going to bring our feet together this time. Hands are going to come all the way up, extended mountain pose. Sweeping those hands down and around, we're going to come forward into a narrow chair. Setting back into the heels. If you want to challenge your balance here, we're going to bring it up to balancing chair. So just taking those those heels off the floor. Remember, you can always bring your balance here with the hands. And then bringing it all the way up. Back to that extended mountain pose. Sweeping those hands back down. Not bad, you guys. Well done. All right, let's go ahead and spread our feet out here. And so this is going to be real magical because I don't get to see you guys. But that's actually going to be a good thing today. I want you to challenge yourself without the fear of failure or fear of being watched or judged. That's something we actually really encourage people never to do in yoga. But now you can guarantee it because there's no one going to see you, right? So we're going to come down into garland pose first. So hands are going to come here at prayer pose. Knees are going to bend towards a 45-degree angle. And we're going to come down. If you can, bring your knees, your elbows to your knees. Try not to bottom out by dropping, like sinking into this. If you're real flexible in your hips, this is a temptation, but you're not working anything here. So keep it active, almost like a squat. So the feet and the butt and the feet should go here. So it's like a little M, like a garland on a mantle. Lifting the chest. So next up, we're going to come down with our hands, and we're going to spread our hands really, really wide. So what we're going to go into is crow pose. So we're going to come forward with the legs onto the arms and press all the weight into the hands, lifting the feet off the floor into that nice crow pose, balancing. If you fall on your face, you're super close to the floor. It's not going to hurt that bad. You can get back up and do it again. It's totally fine. Just put a pillow there for comfort if you need to. So I'm giving you a couple of moments to just go ahead and practice this. Just see what it feels like to kind of drop that body into those hands. For some people, it might be easier to come from a standing position for crow. Hands are still open, and I can bring my knees towards my arms this way. And then just carefully, one foot at a time. Remembering that the weight has to come forward or you won't be able to stay up. All of the balance is in your hands. Can't see you, but I know you're doing great. You have to be doing great because you're trying it. All you got to do is try it. Crow is hands down one of my favorite poses to do balance-wise because it's all about balance, not necessarily strength. And I am not as strong as I'd like to be. So for me, it's a great pose to practice combining the two things, the balance and the strength. Okay, so once you've played around with that, and we're going to come out of that position, and then we're going to come down onto our knees. So go ahead and just come into a wide knee stance here. We're going to do frog pose. I'm going to go ahead and knock out our hip openers on both sides. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use your hands for support. Walk your knees as wide as you can, okay? So once your knees are as wide as you can, we're going to bring the feet back even with the knees. You're going to immediately feel this in your hip flexors. Your hips and your hip flexors. Once you're here, we're going to kind of sink the hips back a little bit. And hopefully you feel exactly what you should be feeling right now. And for me, I am giggling through the discomfort. So this might be a great opportunity for you to revisit your word of resolve or your intention statement for today. I am present. I am here. I showed up today. I am enough. So feeling the weight of your hips kind of sinking down. So this is an option for people who have real tight hips, people who struggle in the pigeon pose. The pigeon pose is an extremely intense hip opener if done correctly. Sometimes it helps to kind of start with both legs at the same time. So we're breathing through what you may be feeling in those hip sockets. But if you can, join me as we're going to come down into our elbows. And then from here, with every breath, we're going into our sinking breath. With every inhale, fill up the lungs and belly. And as you exhale, we just kind of sink back, like you're trying to push your hips towards your feet. Keeping in mind, ladies, that we house the gamut of emotions in our hips. It's the sacral chakra. It's the bundle of nerves that's there in our pelvic region, a little bit higher than that. And so a lot of times if we don't express those emotions, if you're not an emotional person like myself, I don't cry a whole lot, it takes a lot, but I express my emotions in other ways, right? But a lot of times we don't, and that energy stays in the body. That negative energy, it stays in the body. So I really want to encourage you to notice right now what you're feeling emotionally. It could manifest itself in a frustration that maybe you're not getting a pose right, or you're not getting this the way that you feel like you should be getting it. Or it could manifest itself in emotions that don't even make sense to be happening right now. But I want to encourage you to take note of those emotions. In 2 decades, I've seen more women and men break down in tears in a hip opener pose than anything else. The energy has to leave your body somehow. So allow that to happen if it's happening. If it's not happening, that's okay too. It might just be a really great pose for you. Just might feel real good. I'm really talking a lot so that you can really just maybe take your mind off of some of the discomfort if you're feeling that. But I really want our hips to feel this. So go ahead and start by taking your hands underneath your body, push up first, and then we're going to bring the feet in second, push your hips back, and lastly, those knees come in. Woo. If we were together, we would all be breathing like, right now. Go ahead and shake those legs out. Seated in a seated pose, we're going to just shake those legs out. All right. So taking your sits bones and pressing them into the floor, maybe moving out any fleshy parts that are hindering your sits bones from touching the floor, so that you feel what you're supposed to feel. But if you feel like you want to move that flesh back so that you have some cushion, that's totally fine. We just want to make sure that we know where our sits bones are and what's pressing into the mat. Taking a deep breath in, we're going to hinge at the hips, okay? We're going to come forward with the chest, and we're not going to round. We're going to kind of flatten like this. Okay, so we're coming into a flat forward fold here. Knees are going to bend, and we're going to reach forward towards the feet. Deep breath in as we lift the chest, and back into that sinking breath. As we exhale, we're going to sink the body towards the legs. Repeating that over and over, inhaling and exhaling, sinking into that forward fold. Take several breaths here, allowing your body to go closer and closer to the floor. If you find yourself rounding your back at any point, just kind of lift out of that bend into a nice deep inhale and then sink back in, coming a little flatter. And final one more deep breath. See if you can go just a little bit lower, a little bit sinkier into those legs. And then slowly we're going to come out of that forward fold. Bringing those feet in, sole to sole. And we're going to roll the shoulders down, opening up those hip flexors once again, or those hip sockets once again. I'm really stuck on the hip flexors today. See if we can bring both balls of the feet and the heels together and press the legs down at the same time. And then we're going to open the feet like a book, like this. Even if it doesn't have to come open big, but just opening up those feet, still pressing the legs down, straightening out the back as much as you can. To that nice cobbler's pose. All right, and release that out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take our bodies down to the floor, onto our belly. So coming down onto your belly. Make sure you guys can still see me. Okay, so we're going to come down onto the belly. Relax into the belly just a bit. And then we're going to bring our hands towards each other like you're crossing your arms. We're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to lift the
feet off the floor. I know y'all can't see my feet, but we're gonna lift the feet off the floor, lift the upper body off of the floor. All right, and then dropping it back down if you haven't already. All right, next up. Oh, here we are, friends. Nice and close to each other. All right, next up, we're gonna go into locust pose. So we're gonna bring our hands down by our side. Hands are gonna come in towards the body. And then we're gonna lift the chest, but we're gonna leave the legs on the floor. So we're gonna lift the chest into locust, pulling the shoulders back, deep breath in, opening up the heart center, squeezing your glutes together. So you've got a nice strong base here. And exhale. All right, we're gonna go into one more pose here on our belly. We're gonna go into our bow pose. So we're gonna do it twice, so that if you're taking the option to do one leg at a time, you will get both legs, okay? So pick a leg, whichever one you'd like, reach back, grabbing that ankle, and then notice how my foot goes from pointed to flexed. You wanna make sure that your foot is flexed to kind of lock that hand into place. If you're gonna do one hand, you're gonna extend the opposite side out and bring that leg up towards the ceiling. If you're doing both legs, go ahead and reach back, grab that other ankle for full bow. Take a deep breath in, lifting the heels towards the ceiling, opening up that chest, and really rocking because you're breathing. And then release into the floor. We're gonna go one more time. So if you just had the one leg, then you're gonna do that opposite leg. If you have both legs, we're gonna do both again. Remember, flexing the feet to lock the hands into place so that your hands don't slip off. And take a deep breath in, taking it all the way up. This time, concentrate on lifting the heels up and pushing the shins away from your body. So you get the good shoulder stretch in there. And then drop it down slowly. Oh, that feels amazing. All right, hands are gonna come up underneath us. We're gonna push up onto all fours, bringing those knees in, and then we're gonna bring the knees all the way through so that we can lie down on our back. We're gonna go ahead and come into the back so that we can round out the lower back, kind of undoing the pressure that we just did, that hyperextension of the lower back. We're gonna undo it a little bit. I'll bring the knees into the chest, into that egg pose. Taking those legs over to one side, dropping them to the floor, opening up your arms if you like, and look in the opposite direction. So nice lying down spinal twist. Great for digestion, to get those intestines nice and massaged and moving. This is great for if you are traveling and you're not drinking as much water, or perhaps you're indulging a little bit in richer foods during the holiday season, like dairy products, lots of cheese and chocolates and wine, things like that. It's great to be able to do some side twists, some spinal twists, to make sure that you're getting those getting that stuff digested. Taking your legs to the opposite side, opening up the chest once again, looking over that opposite shoulder. All right, slowly bring those knees back into the chest. Since we did some hip openers today, I want to do our egg beaters just to kind of release those hip sockets. So just kind of taking your knees in different directions, whatever feels good to you, just kind of opening up those legs, letting those hips kind of roll, the ball kind of rolling around in that socket a little bit. All right, bring those knees back into the chest. All right, y'all, take in that, both legs, put them right down on the floor. Hands are gonna be down by our sides, so we're reaching, kind of reaching towards our feet. We're gonna squeeze the glutes, walk the shoulders inward, and we're gonna lift up to bridge pose. So squeezing the glutes here, hamstrings are activated, the belly is pressing up, and we're really reaching with the hips towards the ceiling. If you wanna take it a step further, we're gonna walk the shoulders inward a little more, clasping the hands to a bound bridge. Really squeezing the glutes. So I also like to imagine that we've got a yoga block between our knees here, and we're squeezing those inner thighs, squeezing your glutes. And one last little thing you can practice here is to draw, or not draw it, but imagine that you're drawing your heels towards your shoulders, like we're back on that block of ice, and you're trying to slide your feet backwards towards your body. Notice what that does to those hamstrings, those inner thighs. All right, slowly lowering it back down. Oh, that's so good. All right, knees come back into the chest one last time. A little rocking, a little massaging of the lower back. All right, ladies. So we're going to go ahead and extend the legs out into a corpse pose. Shavasana is the name of this pose. We also like to use the word Shavasana to describe our final relaxation of the class because we're in corpse pose. So let your feet fall open. I know you can't see mine. Hands are down by our sides, just like in the mountain pose where we started the class. So we're standing mountain, except for now we're lying down in that same pose. Let the hips kind of roll out and feel comfortable, just relax here. And then let's just do a couple of other checkpoints. I'm going to talk you through it since you guys are lying down. I don't want you to have to look. So we're going to notice that the way that our head feels. So just relaxing the forehead, relaxing the crown of your head, imagining that you're just smoothing out the forehead, eliminating any wrinkles on the forehead or the creases in the eyes. Face is completely relaxed here. The jaw may fall open. That's normal. It means you're actually relaxing your jaw. Teeth are unclenched. Tongue is off of the roof of our mouth. The neck is nice and smooth. The shoulders are relaxed. No tension anymore in that upper cervical spine or in those traps. The arms are relaxed. The belly is relaxed. Those hip flexors, those hip openers that we did earlier, the hip openers that we did for our hips and our hip flexors earlier should feel nice and relaxed. Thighs are falling kind of to the side a little bit. Knees are soft and our feet are relaxed. Finding that breath here, that deep, smooth breath that we practiced earlier. Maybe even revisiting that resolve or that intention. Clearing any negative self-talk or any negative vibes from your thoughts right now, just clearing those out and reminding yourself that you are enough, that we are strong and we are capable. We are allowed to say no. We are allowed to do the things that fill us up so that we can fill others up. That is absolutely okay. And just kind of making your thoughts positive ones now for the next few moments. I want you guys to just practice your breathing. If you find your mind wandering, because I know that your to-do list is so long, but if we can just acknowledge those things and let them move past us and go right back into our breathing, just really being present on our mat for the next few moments. When you hear my chimes, that will be your indication that it's time for you to start rolling over onto one side or becoming aware once again and coming up into a seated position. But for now, just think about your breath and your body on the mat, and I'll bring us back in just a few moments. Ladies, begin to just wiggle your fingers and your toes once again. Opening and shutting your hands, rolling your ankles, maybe rolling over onto one side if that feels good, or you may just be ready to come up into a seated position. Just take your time. Still maintaining that sense of relaxation, of focus. As you come into your seated position, that can be however you want to sit. Like today, my hips are real tight, so I'm sitting kind of in a letter Z. But you may want to sit cross-legged. You may want to sit in like a half lotus, however you want to sit. But once you get into your seated position, I want to bring you into a 1-minute meditation for our final thing. So when we come here at our heart center in prayer pose, another yoga mudra that I love is the one for connection and for family. So we're going to bring our 2 middle fingers in. You guys can see the 2 middle fingers, kind of like the American Sign Language symbol for I love you, but the fingers, the pinkies and the index fingers and the thumbs are all still touching. And then we're bringing our hands back here to heart center. So the thumbs are right in at the chest right there. And I want us to just think for about 1 minute, to meditate for 1 minute on the connections and on our family. I recognize that this year, unlike most years, it's going to be a little harder for some of us to spend that time with loved ones. I know for us, we've had to make some sacrifices in that department that are very emotional and very difficult for us as a family, because we genuinely want to make sure everyone stays safe. So we are making that choice, but it's hard. And so I know we're not alone in that. I know a lot of people are having to choose difficult things at this time. I know a lot of states are still on lockdown. Ours is going on lockdown this weekend. So we're just really trying to think about those people in your life. Think about your family as you look down at your fingers, as you can close your eyes here, or you can just kind of have a soft gaze. But with every breath, I want you to think about a different person that you value. Does not have to be family, of course, but just someone that you want to send those good vibes to, that you want to send those blessings to, that you're just, you can, if you are a prayer, you can pray here. You can just think about those people. You can meditate on those people, or you can just think about your breath or the connections that you have in your own 4 walls, whatever you want to think about. But for the next few seconds, I want you to just really focus on that connection. All right, you guys, finally, we're going to take a deep breath in, bringing those hands all the way up over our heads. Inhale, 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 and exhale, bringing those hands right back full circle. Namaste, y'all. I appreciate you guys joining me this morning. I hope y'all have an amazing Christmas. I hope you find that balance. Remembering that balance does not mean everything has equal value or equal attention or equal time. Balance just simply means making sure that we balance the things that are truly valuable and important to us with all the other things that maybe aren't so high on the priority list, but making sure that we still kind of maintain that balance. It doesn't have to be even. Okay. All right. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you. I wish I could have seen you today, but I understand not wanting to be on video. So very, very Merry Christmas to you too, Tiffany, Alondra, Caroline. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you all for those of you who are on YouTube watching this. I hope you enjoy your practice today. Leave some comments and some feedback, and we will see y'all tomorrow. Thanks so much, y'all. Have a great one.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Thank you.